Sup, my fellow Rogueteers, my name is Shadow Rager, and I have been an active tester for Terminull Brigade for quite some time now, little over a year, and I've noticed something during all my hours of testing. This game explains jack shit to you! So I figured before the game releases well, it releases soon, I figured I would share a few tips on how to play Terminull Brigade the right way. For starters, I wanted to clear up a massive misconception about this game. It's not a roguelike. Now, wait a second and let me explain. For years now, there have been a massive overlap between the two genres of games, roguelikes and roguelites. A game that could be a roguelike could also have roguelite aspects, or vice versa. It all depends on where most of the power of a run comes from. In roguelikes, the main place you get the power of a run is the stuff you pick up along the course of the run. This can be things like boons from Hades or the items in Risk of Rain 2. Roguelites, on the other hand, get their main source of power from upgrades that you bring into a run, then building the run around the strong base build that you brought into the run. In Terminull Brigade, this would be stuff like your combat terminal, your character proficiencies, and ability modules. Now that this common misconception is cleared up, and nobody is in a disagreement with it, let's move on to more gameplay-related tips. A very big part of this game is that every playable character in the 6-character roster has its own unique playstyle. I would recommend trying out each character and finding what character you enjoy the best, as every character can be built to obliterate the hardest content in this game. Whether it be stuff like Aurora with her emphasis on crowd damage and crowd control, or Glory with her just winning. Each character is unique, and if you don't vibe with the character you are playing, the game can very quickly feel bland. Now, I personally can't talk because out of the 70-ish hours I have across the different beta tests and play tests, 95% of that time was on Blade. And not for the reasons you think, you sick fuck. Nice. Now that you've found a character you enjoy playing, let's go over how to better build them to dumpster even the hardest content of Endgame. Something that is very poorly explained in the game is that the build you make out of the run is way more important than when you're able to build inside of a run. This has to do with a system called power, and oh god, I didn't explain power. Power. The most important and yet entirely unexplained stat in the game. Okay. Crash course on power. Power affects everything. Your ability damage, your weapon damage, the effectiveness of certain skills such as healing and shielding, etc. Basically, the more power equals more everything. Yet, surprisingly, power isn't the main thing you want to build towards. The main stat you want to build towards, depending on your character, is either skill power or weapon power. Now, these are entire different stats and scaling from regular power. Weapon power, which it only affects your weapon damage and alt fire damage. For my testing, it does not affect the different unique traits of your alt fires or regular fires. Now, your skill power, on the other hand, is a whole different ballgame. Skill power, while affecting your skill damage for your main kit, also increases the damage that your perks deal. That means if you want to run a perk build, you have to build towards skill damage. Okay. Crash test over. Where were we? Each character has a build that you want to work towards both in and outside of a run. Outside of runs, you want to force either pure weapon power or pure skill power, depending on what character you choose. This can be done through ability module system, your combat terminal. There's also character proficiency, which can get you things like new potentials, weapons, or even at max proficiency, a flat-out broken passive ability that changes the way you play a character. But seeing as you get proficiency passively as you play the game, there isn't really any way to speed up that other than just playing more. Inside of a run, you want to find not only what perk paths work well with your character, but also what items work well for your character. For example, a fairly popular build on Aurora is either forcing Ibetter or Thunder with 6-piece backpack. While that may not be familiar with you, and I'm stupid and didn't get B-roll footage for this certain section of the script during the final playtest, I'm sure my editor will be totally normal about this. Okay, here's a good weapon damage based example. Blade with either crit or Gamba fire perks while building into full Divine Blade set, or alternatively the SMG set. This gives a rather insane amount of damage not only for regular encounters, but also clears bosses fairly quickly. My point being that every character has a good build, and while this is not a guide video, I'm sure there will eventually be in-depth guides for every character, and I would experiment to find what you find strong or very funny. Okay, now that you know the general basics of creating a build, both in and out of a run, let's quickly go over where to find the pieces to craft a really strong out-of-run build, as even veterans of this game might not know this info, as it was really only released in the last playtest for this game. For rough starter build, not much has changed. As you play through the game's first game mode, aptly named Standard Mode, you'll get pieces for your combat terminal. These are Strength 1 modules, which you can carry you into a decent way through the game. As you progress through difficulties 6 and 7, you'll unlock access to the next game mode, Corrective Action. While this isn't actually important, you do need to clear certain floor thresholds and corrective actions, which are a lot more important when crafting stronger builds, as it gives you access to newer game modes. If things remain the same as the final playtest, difficulties 8 and 10 in Standard Mode will start dropping Strength 2 modules, which can be a fast way to start revving up the strength of your build. It is worth it to note that later floors of Corrective Action will also drop higher strength modules, but seeing as this mode takes a little while to make any meaningful progress in, it's not really the best way to create an early game build, if that makes sense. As you start clearing more difficulty and floor benchmarks in both Standard Mode and Corrective Action, you will finally unlock both Chains of Disorder and Viral Frenzy. Now, here's where things get a little bit complicated. Just wanted to throw a quick disclaimer in here before I get into Viral Frenzy and Chains of Disorder. I have not tested either of these modes, so the information I have here is purely from context clues that I gathered on the final day of the playtest. We will know more when the final game comes out. Viral Frenzy is a mode that I am unsure of how it actually plays, as I wasn't able to spend enough time in the playtest to actually get to play it, but I am certain that it unlocks a new out-of-run progression system called Cores. Viral Frenzy runs off of a energy refilling system that takes a certain amount of energy per run and refills as time goes on, kind of like your standard gacha energy system, if that makes sense. I would suggest starting in the easier modes to get a feel for how it plays and getting some starter cores before ramping up the difficulty of Viral Frenzy to start getting stronger cores. There's also Chains of Disorder. This mode is legit just a boss rush mode that requires an item drop from other modes to enter. While being a little annoying to get to, this is the only known place to get both Strength 3 and Strength 4 modules for your combat terminal, meaning if you want the best of the best out-of-run progression, you need to grind up the resources to do some Chains of Corruption runs. I'm curious about what you think about Terminull Brigade. Are you as excited for the game as I am? Are you going to be fighting for top of the leaderboard spots or trying to secure a crazy good time? Well, whatever your plans are, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in Terminull Brigade or in the next video.